Hello, everybody, and welcome to this workshop on how can action research help academic development within Erasmus Plus Coalition project. It is conducted by Eleni Katsaru from University of Crete, Greece, and me, Elia Fernandez, from the University of Cantabria, Spain. No, right. It doesn't work, sorry. Yes. We have been, both of us, thinking about the work design, and we would like to share with you as a kind of route of tour. After brief presentation, we will focus on the introduction to show the purpose of the workshop. And also we will move to an online space, a discussion point to interact with each other, to share experiences on action research in university context. Secondly, we will, with Eleni, see this theoretical approach of to see the connection between action research and faculty's development. And thirdly, we will share experiences on action research in higher education. And finally, we will move to the reflection on action research, thinking in a proposal to continue discussion. So for us, it will be an absolutely pleasure to share with you some kind of inputs begin like a never-ending story, not the beginning of a connection between all of us. Just a brief presentation. Well, I started working as a preschool teacher, and during this time I was an action researcher, like a practitioner in this context. And after doing my PhD degree on action research and professional development and ICT, I start working here at the University of Cantabria, teaching subjects related to curriculum innovation and educational technology in both educational degree and master degree. And nowadays, my most recent research interests and publications are related to participatory action research, social transformation, visual narrative, and disruptive teaching practice in this context, in university context, higher education. I'm a coordinating group member of the Spanish Network on Technology at the University Context, Higher Education, and a CAR member. In this collaborative action research network, I had the opportunity to meet some colleagues, one of them, Eleni. The reason was I'm doing this workshop here and being in this coalition project. So, Eleni, will you continue, please? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am a professor of curriculum theories and instruction at the Department of Philosophy and Social Studies at the University of Crete. My research and publication focus on curriculum studies, teaching theory, educational research, and especially action research, literacies, and pre- and in-service teacher education. I have published 3 scientific books that refer to action research and democracy in school, and several articles in international and Greek journals and volumes. I am a CAR member since 1994. There I met Elia, and that's why we can communicate, cooperate in such a good manner. My recent project focus on artificial intelligence literacy, digital education, and the role of artificial intelligence. And it's very challenging for me to combine these recent interests with my love in action research.
Thank you very much, Eleni. And now let's have a look at the purpose of the workshop. You can see that our concern about the connection between professional development and action research, but we will try to do it looking at the difficulties also, looking at the benefits, why not? For this reason, and having in mind this kind of big goal, we will follow this step we have been talking about before. We will try to explain how action research and its use in higher education, why, when, how, for what, basic characteristics of a methodology that supports research and teaching at the same time. Then we will move to experiences of improving teaching and curriculum through action research, and others that highlight why action research can improve this professional development. And also we would like to finish stressing the relevance of the reflective nature of action research. To see how important is this reflection on action research in a community of practice, and see how can we promote it and how can we continue this discussion. So to begin with, we would like to share with you this discussion point. Let me see, because I can't remember if I didn't write down in the chat. I forgot. Yes, sorry. Well, here. Okay. So the idea is to join this discussion point, join here, and then you will, you will find this kind of speech bubble. We will focus on number 1, introduction, sharing experiences on action research in higher education. And using this speech bubble, you can click on and tell us a bit about this experience in your university context, or the experience you know, or just to share some knowledge and ideas from the beginning with all of you. So we would like you to join this discussion point and start texting or writing, if you don't mind. So let's wait for a couple of minutes if some participants want to share their experience. And
Elena has written something.
Yeah.
Something very interesting.
Yep. Can I step in? Is it okay? Or
yes.
Should I wait?
Of course.
Of course, Elena.
Okay, thank you. So a couple of years ago, we had a program at our university. It was designed to investigate the well-being of students in some pilot schools. What did it consist of? I mean, in terms of action research, we went into schools, we worked with teachers, we worked with school inspectors, we worked with parents. I forgot to mention the fact that the schools were specially designed for extremely poor kids, I mean, from disadvantaged areas. So this action research and the topic of students and kids' well-being brought our attention due to this background and social background. And we designed an intervention or several actions to address this problem. What we did, we monitored. We had a team of teachers who observed, who document the outcomes and the process. And it was some kind of a cycle of action, planning, observing, reflecting upon it. And then at the end, we had this, let's say, output that we've managed to bring to stakeholders in order to draw their attention that these small steps could actually mean a lot for students' well-being. So actually, it's work on the field, if I may put a synonymous to action research.
Very nice, Elena. This was an action research in a school. We are going to focus on action research in tertiary higher education. And the first thing I can say is that action research can be used in many ways. One of the ways was presented by you, but there are many other variations. Okay. But it was an interesting experience.
Yes, thank you very much, Elena. Let's see if there is another, sorry. I have here. No, there is no more comments here. Well, but we can later come back to this discussion point and see if somebody else wanted to share their experience here and then share comments all together in another moment during the workshop, if you agree, Eleni.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So
we can start.
Yes. We can continue if you want, Eleni.
Yes. We can start, first of all, mentioning some characteristics that we can find in higher education context, because higher education has a special context, a little different from other education levels. Faculty members' promotion, the first characteristic, is on the basis of their research achievements. That is, the faculty members take their promotion on the basis of their research achievements rather than the quality of their teaching. And I think this is a very big problem because faculty members have no motivation for improvement of teaching, and action research is for the improvement. So here is the first problem. Also, in higher education, the emphasis is on the content taught. And what we're interested in is in the content knowledge and not so much the procedural knowledge. Only recently I have started hearing at the university the need for developing soft skills, that is the skills for collaborating, for communicating, for discussing, for reflecting, and all these things. Also in the higher education, there are strong hierarchies between faculty members. You know that we have certain grades there, faculty members and students, etc. All these are the obstacles, but also on the other hand, we have some factors that can support our action research. The first one is that we have adult learners and not young children that cannot provide us with any feedback or reflection or anything like that. And on the other hand, the higher education institutions cultivate critical ability. So this is also in the heart of action research. Also, our courses give many opportunities for cooperation between learner and teachers in seminars, in other assignments. And also our learners have experience on reflective practices. I think that we can mention, we have to stress these characteristics and build on them. Can we move to the other slide? Okay. But what is action research? As I told to Elena before, action research can take many phases, can have many versions. First of all, we have to understand that it's a dual process. It's a combination. It's a combination of teaching, action, that is teaching in our case, and research. So it's both in one. It's a participatory and cooperative process. You cannot do it by yourself, because if you knew how you can improve your practice, you could do it. So you need a research process that can be supported by others. The purpose is always the improvement of the curriculum, the improvement of teaching, the improvement of myself, the improvement of the course, every time the improvement of the context, every time the purpose is the improvement through the improvement of my understanding of the limitations I have in my teaching, of the obstacles I face, of whatever restricts my actions, and also understanding of the prospects I have in my teaching, and all the factors that can help me in my teaching. Another characteristic is that action research is a qualitative research methodology. It's teaching and researching at the same time through qualitative methods. It's not a case study. Many times we confuse it with case study. It's something different, but it needs qualitative methods. The teacher becomes a researcher and makes interventions in his/her teaching and reflection on these interventions. And its final further, that is objective, is to turn the teacher to a reflective practitioner, that is a practitioner who reflects on his/her practice, his/her teaching all the time.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course, Mario. You
Everybody.
you like.
I was wondering if you could give some examples of what kind of qualitative methods you are referring to here.
Yes, I am referring to interviews, to logs, to journals, personal journals. I refer to photos or audio recordings or video recordings of my teaching, and all this sort of all these materials. But we will come to it a bit later with many examples on this. Is there any other question?
No.
Okay. When I said before that you can interrupt me, I didn't mean only Mario. Everybody can interrupt.
Yes, of course.
What for? Why are we going to make an action research? For solving teaching problems, for improving educational situations. This is a first objective and very crucial one. For curriculum reform, because no curriculum is perfect, and any curriculum can have points that need improvements. For faculty development through participation and cooperation, for empowering participants, especially students, but also teachers, and for bringing change in an organization through action from the bottom. We are speaking about change, innovation from the bottom, that is bottom up, and not for changes that are imposed from the top down. Action research is a bottom-up approach. It's a democratic educational research. Why? It is conducted by the practitioners themselves, the faculty members, that is, and not only by professionals, by educational researchers. In the example that Elena presented before, some professionals went to school and collaborating with the teachers, they did an action research. Okay, but I think that this is not a strong case of action research. A strong case of action research starts from the bottom, starts from the teachers themselves, from the practitioners themselves. And I think this is more genuine action research. When the researchers go to school, they bring their agenda with them. They bring their objectives, their methods, and all these things. So the teachers, as professionals, as practitioners, sorry, take a second role, not the primary role, which is the best for action research. The educational theory is produced by practitioners. This is very important. It is not imposed to them for applying it, like in every other kind of research, of educational research. It is based on cooperations and equal relations. I know this is very, very difficult to have to establish equal relations, but this is also a very basic characteristic of action research. It is inclusive as it encourages the expression of all voices, of all participants, even the more vulnerable ones, like students, that is, who are the last in the educational play, the last role. We can move on if there is no other question. Okay. Elia, next slide, please. And as Elena said before, we are in action research, we're moving into a spiral that is in a cycle, and one cycle leads to the other cycle, and all these cycles make a spiral. We start from planning, then we act, we implement what we planned. We observe what, when acting, we observe what we planned, how we perform it, how we implement it, and finally we move to the reflection phase, which is the most important in action research. Now, concerning planning. The planning, I think, has to start from the situation mapping, which is the context, which are the characteristics of the context, which is the situation I want to intervene and to change, all these things. The definition of the problem or the phenomenon that needs improvement, it's not so easy as it's written here. Because the understanding of each participant are different. I understand the problem in my way, but my colleagues understand it in different ways. So the definition of the problem, I think, is a very important phase. Brainstorming can be done, and through this brainstorming we can see our different understanding and our different and clever ideas how to change this phenomenon that bothers us or makes a problem for us. Also, we can search for clever ideas in the literature, and also we can plan, finally, we can plan a teaching intervention that incorporates all these clever ideas from ourselves, from the literature, from other colleagues. And also, we plan the research methods and tools we are going to use to monitor the intervention and what we do in practice, what we will do in practice. When we speak about planning, we mean not only planning of the teaching intervention, but also of the research that will take place. As I said at the beginning, teaching and research move at the same time. They are both one job for us. Acting. When we are in the class and we do the implementation of the intervention, that is, we try the innovation in practice. And also, we collect the research data at the same time. Then, collecting the data, we can use, that's where the first answer to Mario's question is, we can do participatory observation, we can do recordings, audio recordings, as I said before, personal diaries and logs, focus group interviews, and we need students' voices and initiatives to be expressed in as many ways as possible. Because our voices, the professors' voices, I'm sure that they will be expressed. So the difficult part is to make students speak.
I think there's a question in the chat from Kalia.
Okay, Kalia?
Yes. Hi, Eleni. Hi. That made me think about, because now you're going to move to analysis, but you talked about all this data collection, and I was thinking constantly, if I have something in my mind, like an intervention that I might believe wrongly in some cases that it is successful and it works and it benefits my students. In other words, if I am biased about my own initial assumption and the efficacy of my interventions, how do I avoid bias in my action research? And are there any ways to regulate myself or monitor what I do to make sure I don't do that?
Yes, action research has a very useful mechanism for this, and this is the collective reflection. I think because the collective reflection, that is, you are not going to reflect by yourself, but the reflection will be collective, and the reflection of the others can make you see that you have bias, you are biased, or you have other preconceptions that you mislead your intervention. So I think that this is a very useful mechanism. That's why we do not make action research by ourselves, but only in groups. I think that this is very important. And of course, that action research collects data from different sources, that is from, or not only from you, the professor, but also from the students, from critical friends, from other participants, so as to triangulate the data and their analysis and see what really happens in the class from many aspects, and not only from the prospect of one of the professor, let's say. There are mechanisms that stop this misleading of the process. And of course, the most important one of these mechanisms is that everything that is done is evidence-based, is based on the data that are collected and analyzed. We collect all this data, and then we proceed to the analysis, which can be through thematic analysis. And then the reflection is based on this analysis, and it is a collective reflection, as I told you before. The reflection is also supported by educational theory. I think that this is very important, and is critical reflection. And for having reflection that it is critical, is very important to have to have at least one critical friend. That is one person that makes difficult questions. Why this happened, how this happened, and can bring up very deep thoughts on the phenomenon. The reflection is grounded on broader socio-political circumstances, and not on only on the very small educational phenomenon we examine. That is, the specific phenomenon we examine has to be a part of a broader socio-political context. And this is very important, that as it can lead us to more critical action research. And of course, the role of a critical friend, which is very important, as you know, a critical friend can take some distance from the phenomenon and produce very useful insights. Okay, we say that action research is based on reflection, but and its more important more important phase is reflection. But reflection on what? I think that this is the most important slide in my presentation. First of all, we reflect on what we study and how it relates to the quality in education and research. That is our teaching strategies. That is, we reflect on the object of our research. Then we reflect on who we are, that is, the subjects of the research. We who are making the study, which are our personal educational theories, explicit or implicit assertions that we believe, and they lead our practice. Because, you know, some personal theories are we are aware of them, but some others are implicit that we do not know that we follow them. That is, if I am asked if all my students are equal, and if I make a lesson that I try to include them in my lesson, all of them, I will answer yes, of course. But during my teaching, I may exclude some groups of students without having understood that. The third point is that we reflect on the theoretical, epistemological, and methodological background of the action research we are carrying out. That is, the action research itself is under our reflection, and it is a dynamic process that can be altered and improved all the time. So the action researchers have to be very flexible and to see what is going wrong and try to improve it as the process goes on, which is not so easy. And also we reflect on the specific historical and socio-cultural context of action of our research, that is the possibilities it creates and the limitations it poses to us. And this is the spiral of action research. I wanted to show this slide for you to understand that every cycle leads to the other cycle, and we always go to replanning from the beginning what we have done. There is no end to this process, as there is no end that it is perfect. Every intervention we make can be improved. So we come at the beginning all the time, improve our planning, test another intervention in practice, reflect on it, and then replan it again. Difficulties and obstacles, as you can understand, they are many. We do not have any motivation because the emphasis is on the research in our profession and not on teaching. We also have resistances from the context, that is, the professors know best, so why make research on her teaching? Also the individualistic character of teaching. We close the door and nobody knows what takes place behind the classroom door. Also risks of manipulation. Can we have equal relations in the university? Can the muted students' voices be expressed? And also practical difficulties, lack of time, because it's a matter of priority. I have to carry on my research, not time for actual research for improving my teaching. But actual research creates many prospects. That's why it has so many funds around the world. It proposes a way of living and not only a way of teaching. If I reflect on my teaching, I reflect on everything I do. Also, professional development of the faculty members concerning teaching through new understanding and self-evaluation, which is a very interesting process per se, and very valuable for the persons that are in. Also, partnerships in the solitude of the profession. For some people like me, these partnerships are very important. New means of communication and interaction in the professional setting, creation of communities of practice, prospects of networking. Professors are ready to hear the students' voice and become more flexible to what they hear, to the feedback they take from their students. And of course, action research can create more inclusive higher education institutions and organizations in general. So I think the prospects are very rich. And finally, I think we finished with all these theoretical items, and Elia can move to some practical examples.
Yes, after this theoretical approach, we will move to share experiences on on action research in higher education. We will concentrate in this experience here, our team of the University of Cantabria, Global Education, has been doing action research on our own teaching practice, which is published in this participatory action research principles, approaches, and applications, published in Nova. Here we will try to summarize this transforming university teaching, doing participatory action research to promote disruptive practice in two different subject contexts: curriculum, which is in second year of the primary education degree, and ICT, which is in the third year preschool educational degree. So we will try to summarize and to explain a bit how do we manage our action research.
Sorry, Elia, in your previous slide, you mentioned participatory action research. Yeah. Can you define the difference between action research and participatory action research?
Yes. If it is a participatory action research, it's just to focus on what you said before about there is not, it has to do with horizontal ways of doing and democratic ways of doing this action research. So for us in our university context, it has to do with ensure the participation of students. So it has to do with this way of emphasize the democratic, collaborative, and relational way of doing action research. For that reason, when Eleni and me were designing the workshop, we both think that these images could explain this. We have to think that, of course, we can do it by cycles, planning, acting, reflecting, observing, etc. But the complexity of everything, once it's implemented, it is increasing every time. Complexity that has to do not only with the things we are going to find, but also with the relationship we are developing. So we have to move from a linear path to more rhizomatic system, where you can see how the boundaries are expanding. So this participatory, as we said before, emphasize the democratic, horizontal, and relational sense of the action research. But anyway, we will try to do or to explain an example, and then we'll reflect on the participatory essence of this example. So we selected this because we think that with this example, we can see how to generate actions to transform our teaching practice and reflect on the knowledge that has emerged during the course of the actions we devised. Share also our concerns about the process of student participation in the design and assessment of the subjects and the search for situated and transformative learning in a university context. And as we said before, it's like a never-ending story based on the review of critical incidents, the dilemma, difficulties, etc., that have concerned us. We have proposed improvements to continue the next cycle of action research. So how do we start this? We try to generate a mixed team in order to create a collaborative working environment in which the teacher from each subject takes part. This teacher of this subject, but other university teachers and students representing the different groups in which they are organized for the development of the activity. So we have as we will see later, various and diverse contexts of work. And we began the design process by explaining the concerns, planning, as we are going to mention later, and the starting budget that we share, asking ourselves what motivates us to change in order to be able to select specific areas of intervention with the goal of improving student learning. So we wanted to improve student learning, but we want to promote this participation. For this reason, we share our concern, our dilemmas in this action research. So remembering what Eleni said before, in this planning, we use this kind of question to promote this democratic process. So we have initial question for this planning, and this question we try to share it and to generate knowledge about this question, planning all the steps we are going to follow. I mean, in the definition of the problem, we think of what concerns us about our teaching practice, what aspects do we need to improve, what do the students think. When we are collaboratively designing the learning process and the data collection of information, we have to focus maybe on how have I planned this topic, this learning process, which aspect do I need to clarify, how am I going to carry out assessment, what role do the students play in the whole process, what methods do we use for data gathering, who will do this, who and when we will do it. So specific who, how, when, etc. And in the shared monitoring, when the following up of the action, we can share questions as this, no? How will we share the data generated and reflect together during the process? During the data analysis, how have these teachers' concerns evolved or developed? And for the improvement proposal, what changes will be introduced in the next cycle of action? What new questions have arisen? So, as you see, this way of sharing questions and talk about this, discuss and interchange knowledge will allow us to ensure the democratic process, the participatory from each step of the intervention. So let's talk a bit about what we do in our classes, no, in our subjects. In curriculum, we develop a learning process in which students have to reconstruct their memories during compulsory education in order to compare them with the experiences they have during the work placement period. In the ICT subject, we develop a learning process in which students have to reflect on the production of a transmedia narrative to analyze global issues that promote citizenship education. We wanted to share this to know what are we doing in our subject. So now we can move to the different parts of the different cycles to explain. So talking a bit more about the context, as we said before, we try to generate collaboratively this learning environment, but as you see here, has to do with some context that multiplies the complexity, but also ensure the collaboration and the democratic process. So we have a learning process that is developed in each subject. This is carried out in work groups consisting of 4 to 5 students, both in face-to-face and virtual context, no? Because they have to do like, we try to do our best in the face-to-face in our rooms, but we also develop like a virtual production to document the process. This is one context, no? What we develop with students, and also we have the mixed group. We try to implement it, trying to mix, no, a university teacher with another university teacher to do this arrangement for to ensure this critical friendship is going to happen. And we also plan various seminars to share this initial concept with the goal of discussing possible alternatives and rethink the improvement, no? To follow up the development of all the process. So we have these student work groups that work of course, no, and in these rooms, and also in virtual spaces as they are accompanying the documenting of the process. We have the mixed group, a teacher, the teacher of the subject, me or another colleague from Global Education, of our group team, with another teacher for that relation of critical friendship. And then we have this mixed group and seminar attended or conducted by researchers, but trying to ensure the participation of students with discussion group, as we will see now. We will try to see an experience of this. Okay, so as Eleni mentioned before, so we have to focus on the enacting after reviewing and definition the problem process, enacting to ensure this innovation, no? To ensure this change is going to happen in our subjects. After reviewing, as we say, this teaching concept, we focus on this implementation or development of the improvement, the change. In our case, the case we are talking about, we focus on the participative methodologies. We wanted the student be as constructors, co-designers, and researchers. To do this improvement, we will ensure that we will be documenting the process, and then we will observing, as Eleni mentioned before, and reflecting on the improvements in the learning environment and the action research process. At the same time, we have to do the collection of research data. So for this, we establish a roadmap for this collection and analysis of information. And what techniques do we use, and how do we manage, as Mario said before, with this, to trying to find this qualitative data? So we do participatory observations made by the critical friend during the work sessions in the classroom, recorded through field diaries, Pitágoras, or online. Also, we do recordings and interviews with critical friends as open conversation, to reflect on the process. We also ensure student voice initiatives to do this collection of that. So we also do like narratives elaborated by the students about their own work to document the different phases on the process.
Sorry to interrupt. I see that there's a question in the chat from Kalia. Maybe that's nice
sorry.
to.
Yes.
Thank you, Mario. It's not urgent, and I have too many questions, so perhaps I'm disrupting the flow of but it was about the implementation, really. Elia, some faculty members, as Eleni and you mentioned already, they focus on transmission of content only, and they consider engagement of students or activities as wasting time, and sometimes they consider this as disruption of their teaching session, in quotation marks. How do we help them make this transition from focusing on teaching content to evaluating learning processes in class through action research? Because I can't see this happening in my mind. If I have a case with a faculty member where they are very teacher-centered, how do we actually convince them to take the plunge and do it the way you're describing in the implementation phase, for example? How do we convince them that is worthwhile? And I have a few other questions, but I won't ask them now because I'm sure I will distract and I will ask them later on. Thank you.
I think that what always work better is to try to do like an scaffolding of faculties, no? Like if you share what you are learning, what you are doing with your students also, look for spaces to share this experience is the most important part of the process. I mean, we always consider the university curricula as we have a lot of content that have to be like distributed in our rooms in order to be calmed down that everything we have attended all the content follow of course but we have to maybe to stress the importance of the reconstruction of knowledge, and that happens when we give the student the opportunity to in work groups, in peers, and whatever, to reflect on the reconstruction of the knowledge, but not thinking that we have the authority to give them the information, just to try to generate conversation space where we need all the students, and this is very difficult to ensure this, that they have been documented before, they have been reviewing by bibliography and reference and things like that, the content we gave us before, but they are looking for new information, trying to do this narrative way of connecting what the content say in a theoretical or abstract way to their practice. So once they have been like creating these narratives and they are like establishing connection between theory and practice, and we do it together in our rooms, we can just experiment or see how the process of learning is changing. But for this, we need to see our colleagues doing it. I mean, when I talk about C, is that you can do it in a asynchronous way. Asynchronous, I mean, just sharing this knowledge before, sharing these narratives, these diaries, this way of collection, this doing with critical friends, so we can ensure this reconstruction of knowledge using communication spaces of conversations. I don't know if
thank you very much. No, you did. Thank you so much.
So maybe if we continue with the example, because we bring here, Eleni and me, and we were thinking on bringing some kind of quotation just to see how this data could help us. This collection could help us to see the importance and the relevance of see what is happening in our rooms and trying to do this kind of improvements. So as we were talking about before, we use these personal diaries, logs, and multiple narratives, and this is very important to do this kind of focus of discussion groups, semi-structured group conversation with the participation of a student from each work group. So we have our student working or developing this learning process in this work group, but we also need to sit with them in interacting in this more open space with students from all the groups, the teacher of the subject and the critical friend, and we record this and transcribe it later. So if we do that, we can see how the questions will the concept and gaining in complexity once the process is developed in all the different stages or phases. So in the in the following up seminars, another question should emerge, like, for example, we collected here. In the definition of the problem, we move to what makes us change, what concern us, starting budgets do we share, how can we involve students in intervention, in the collaborative design of the lesson, of the learning process, the subject, whatever we refer, we can share questions like this. How can I integrate what it is emerging? How can time and space be temporarily improved to promote intergroup discussion? How can we encourage reflection and follow up by the group itself? How can student voices be integrated in order to introduce changes in the design? Because we have to move from a very directive process to a more horizontal one. In the shared monitoring and feedback, how do the students become aware of the learning path, the findings in the process and the mistakes, in the data analysis, what traces allow us to reconstruct the process, what dilemmas emerge, and in the improvement proposal, we can think about this equation, how they are gaining in complexity, in improvement, as we see here. How can shared reflection on the improvement of practice beyond the temporary limitation of the subject to be systematized? What do our students think about the research process? Which factors have created obstacles when thinking about the next cycle? So it's always this rhizomatic complexity, what it is appearing here. So let's see here what happened in this data collection and data analysis. In the following up seminar, one university teacher talks like this. It's allowed me to have a global vision of what the activity has meant to them and what they have been able to experience when carrying out their practice, as well as its implication in the construction of their teaching identity. It's helped me to understand how the students interpreted the repercussion of all this in their initial training. I definitely think their contributions were very relevant. So we are aware of what is happening in this following up seminar. Another example, collecting this student voice and analyzing after that. And we share with you here, this collected from the discussion group. She's talking about the university teacher, is the university teacher being very on top of our group in that subject, because she observed that we have difficulties in my group during the first stage. The teacher needs to be aware of these difficulties, and the truth is that we need it. And she was there in those moments when we need it. It's another thing that have to do with work groups. Work groups is not just, well, for us, no? It's not to plan what is going to happen in this learning process, or give them like a script, a very specified one, what we need or what we are thinking on what they are going to have for a result. It's more, it has to do with our personal as teacher implication. How do we, what strategies do we develop to see what is happening inside the group, to see how the group is increasing knowledge. to see how the group is integrating all the voices, not just one who is leading and not others, and also to deal with a lot of difficulties when doing these work groups. A university teacher talks like that in a follow-up seminar. The discussion group, and this is very a contradiction and very difficult moment that happened in our team, that one of the teachers said like this: the discussion group was designed for a small group of students, which meant that not all the representatives of the work groups could participate. So I previously thought that perhaps this could be a difficulty because we are creating a discourse in which our intention is to promote a curriculum model for everyone, inclusive education, and tremendous paradox. It turns out that later on, some representative of other groups questioned me about their exclusion with the discussion group. Honestly, you're left with the feeling that there's has been a contradiction between what you are trying to achieve in the subject and what you have done. At least those contradictions are the ones which help you rethink how to improve it. It's what Eleni said before. It's very, very crucial to collect the contradiction, the difficulties, the dilemma, the critical incidents to increase and to promote the improvement of the action research process. So as Kalia told before, for us it's very important to try to share with you how relevant is and how beautiful also is to feel this participatory essence. So try to think and I don't know if we will try with this workshop, that this is a way of thinking, of living, not only teaching or researching, no? So the relevance of student participation and professional development. We also in this coalition Erasmus Plus project that we focus on inclusive pedagogies, no? How important is student voices, involving students and systematizing their participation in mixed teams, increase the number of situations in which students can experience the role of researcher in such a way that an integrative theoretical and practical approach could be encouraged. And it also benefits our pedagogical relationship. It's another thing we have to think, to move from the way we used to teach, like giving content, to increase and promote this pedagogical relationship. Is the one that allows us to increase knowledge at our rooms, as well as
can I shortly interrupt?
Ensuring that student voices are heard and guaranteeing this participation and involvement. Sorry, I think somebody is talking. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking because there was a question in the chat from Brian.
Sorry, because when I'm sharing, I just want to say sorry and apologize about this because if I'm sharing the screen, I can't see the chat. So sorry. Just can you tell us, Mario?
Yeah, so maybe Brian, you can ask your question yourself if you turn on your microphone.
Sure. My name is Brian Denman, and I'm currently a visiting scholar at Stockholm University, but I'm from Australia. When we talk about participatory action-based research and we look at pedagogy, are you differentiating between action-based research in the sense of problem-based learning, topic-based learning, and discussion-based learning? Are you differentiating those three examples of pedagogical approaches? And if so, then are you able to actually see the differences in the way we approach those different learning tools? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we did like this workshop more open in an open way, to focus on the professional development and the curriculum innovation, we haven't analyzed, as you said before, all these issues. We just wanted to focus on these issues because we think that it could help us to improve our teaching practice, but also to ensure the horizontality way and democratic way we do that.
And if I can add, Elia, just a thought, this that Brian mentions, that is problem project-based learning, topic-based learning, and collaborative discussion-based learning are more ways of learning, but action research is a methodology for teaching and learning at the same time. I think that they are different approaches. Of course, the teacher who engages in action research procedures, of course, he or she makes problem-based learning, but for him herself. And also collaborative discussions-based learning, but for the teacher, not for the learners.
Yes, yes, as you said, Eleni, is like another focus. I mean, it's like we are not, because in our rooms, for instance, in our learning process, we develop work projects and we follow these kind of phases to ensure conversation and communication spaces and the reconstruction of knowledge. But here we are more emphasizing the connection between research and improvement of teaching practice for both ensuring professional development and inclusive pedagogies.
I don't know, Brian, if it's clear, but what you mentioned are tools for the teacher in action research, not for the learners, for the students. Is it clear?
Yes, but please understand that in terms of the tools that an academic has, when they're making a decision on how to improve their teaching and to improve on the teaching of curricular content, they make a choice, and we all make choices. And so I'm moving it back to the question of this assemblage of complexity. So you talk about the connection between the pedagogy, the approach, and the learner. I'm wondering if there is a way in which you could map out why a teacher or an academic chooses a particular approach, and then what are the after effects? How are the learners learning from that activity or that approach? And as a result, if you were to map this, you'd be able to see a whole host of different assemblies of different approaches, different patterns, and that's the usefulness of this type of program in terms of focusing on inclusivity.
Yes, of course. It's very peculiar to make an action research and teach in a traditional way. Of course, you have to use teaching methods that are inclusive, of course. Yes, that's very interesting. Yes, we thought we have taken for granted, but it is not. Yes, you are right.
Yes, and I also would add that using this kind of narrative, personal narrative, contrasting this narrative with our colleagues, allow us to see these implicit theories that are always in the contradiction of what we are thinking and what we do in our learning processes. Well, and we are just going to finish also thinking about the relevance.
Think, Brian wants to add something. I'm not sure, but I think so.
No, I just thank you very much for your answers. Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We will be thinking about this for a long time. Yes, I can assure you. Well, we will like to finish this experience, this example, talking also about the relevance of the critical friend as this essential strategy for both teachers and students. For teachers, we think that increased professional development in a contextualized way, giving leading roles to the participant based on the review of their own practice, the reflection of their own practice, to see these dilemmas, critical incidents, and also for students, because they don't usually see us as researchers ourselves, the situation. No? It encourages situations in which students see the relevance of lifelong learning in professional teacher development, observing their own teachers as learners and researchers. We would like to move again to our discussion point and try to think on what. Well, let's go and share the screen again. Sorry. I know this is yes. To see if we have now, not now, maybe we have it from the beginning, or we don't have this kind of that, but thinking about difficulties in doing action research, discuss about one plan we have in mind. Maybe if we have the opportunity now, I don't know if Mario, because I don't have the way as we saw before to do groups, but Mario maybe can do it to directly select this tool from Teams and divide us in two groups in order to discuss and write down a bit about these difficulties in doing action research, or discuss about one plan we have in mind. Can you, Mario, please?
Yeah, I'm trying, but it doesn't seem to work. I cannot click on.
Sorry. I think it's better if I.
Oh, I think I can see it now. How many rooms? You said 2 rooms?
I don't know how many participants. Maybe it's I don't know. 2 or
yep.
How
we
many
have like
of us? Are
16
we?
participants, I think.
Yes, I think. I don't know, Eleni, what do you think about 2 groups?
I think it's better 3 groups.
3 groups.
3 groups. Okay. I will create rooms and I will assign people to rooms automatically. Is that okay?
Yes, you can assign if the tool allows you. So
here we go.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think that's a very good idea.
In our room, we started planning an action research and choosing our our problem, the problem we want to tackle. And Brian had some very good ideas, but we didn't have time to say that what he described was very local, because we do not face this difficulty at all in Greece. And this gives us the opportunity to say that action research is a very local work. It has to be in the context. You cannot take it and move it to another context. It will have no meaning.
Unless maybe if you have a very similar context, of course, because then it could work. Or is it like so specific that it will...
This is a very interesting question. Is this so specific?
Because I mean,
specific?
if you also publish about doing the action research, and if it's so local that it only works in one place, then it's not. It will not generalize to other contexts.
Yes,
right.
This is very tricky point. Yes, you are right, Mario. You know, it's not generalizable. This is for sure, because it is local, but as we have so many examples for so many different contexts, we can make generalizations out of all these examples and all these implementations.
Plus, Eleni, you said that we need to make some connections to educational theories and what's already out there, and how whatever we do relates to the more theoretical principles that we follow.
Yes, but also action research produces educational theory, and it produces it through the different contexts it is implemented. Because there are some things in common and some things that are global, not it's an interplay between the local and the global. And Elia, what do you think?
Yes,
it's a question. Mario posed it.
Yes, I think that if we come back to the our university context, that all Europeans have the same, more or less. I know every context is specific, but we have a kind of how to say that, performative way of global. I mean, this kind of everything focused on the production, the credential, and things like that. Our teaching practice is like in a second stage. I mean, it's more relevant what you are producing, depending or not, if it is connected to your own teaching practice. I think nowadays in our university, we share with this neoliberalism context some characteristics very similar. So that could be a way to share more things, to share difficulties, dilemmas apart, or maybe you have your specific problem, issues, learning process, but content of your subject, but you have like this kind of complexity related to this neoliberalism university context that allow you to share a lot of dilemmas and difficulties, and it could be like a starting point to think about this. And we are all in this same room. I mean, but we are in this kind of way that it is reproducing teaching processes apart from what the student needs and thinks and feels. It's more a way of living, being, yes, and thinking, no? is what I think. Maybe I'm very critical with this, but I think this context, we have to change this university context. I mean, in positive way. Okay, I'm critical, but I'm very positive in this way that we can use action research to try to connect with community in more aspects that we are doing so far. So we need big improvements in this sense, and we have to think in this kind of global citizenship changing the way we are doing with our responsibility, with a lot of things we have to change. I don't know. It maybe I translate to another way, but I think that that a lot of things have to change in our, and that in this are very similar in university context, these issues.
May I say one thing that I add to what you said about changing? One thing that I think needs to change is visibility of teaching practice and exposing ourselves out there. For example, Ilse just suggested something in our group, which is very good, and it is along these lines. She said, if you allow me, she said that when something happens in our classes, we take decisions all the time. So it is important to map out these decisions and in something like more visual, like a decision tree that kind of shows the trajectory we take from just delivering one thing or sharing one thing or designing an activity one way, and what is it that triggers us to go somewhere else and make another decision and do something else. This was a brilliant idea for mapping out and making it visual. And I think this is what it is, this behind closed doors, the fact that we all teach behind closed doors and we don't share, we are not accountable for this kind of decision making even, doesn't help us improve, I think. Ilse? Yeah, I agree completely.
Well, I know I have no limit, but I am Maria. I think I'm thinking about horizon kind of criteria, that when you have to present a proposal, you really have to explain why you are not choosing something else. So in this kind of decision trees, we should be really, we should really explain with a valid and adequate way why we are not choosing something else.
Yeah, it also I've been reading up on scholarship of teaching and learning, and it really feels like this is very much related. Kalia, you are nothing like approaching the teaching more as a researcher, like having to motivate the decisions that you are making, but also the evaluation circle where you have not just like the Likert scale questions that we all know, the student evaluations of the teaching, but also some qualitative data that can actually give you some handles and some information about how to actually improve your teaching. Kalia, you are nodding, so I'm guessing you are agreeing with this?
I absolutely agree with that. Everything,
yes.
All these are data that we need to use as elements of information, to improve or change or monitor things that we do in class. Again, linked with what Ilse said earlier on about decisions we make. Yeah, definitely. And the scholarship, as well as the scholarship of teaching and learning, is also the scholarship of students as equal partners, which is something that fits in so well with this action research model that Elia and Eleni were proposing earlier on. because as you just said, Eleni and Elia, students are our most valuable informants in a way in this case.
Yes, but I'd like to stress that action research is not a tool for improving teaching. It is not so simple. It's a methodology that can alter, that can change teaching and learning, but also can change our awareness of teaching and learning, and also can change the context, as Elia mentioned before. And this is very important.
Maria Anna wants to say something. Maria Anna?
Well, just a continue thought. So, do we really need more reflection and feedback literacy to support all this way of thinking? What do you think?
Of course, critical thinking, yes, critical and reflective thinking is time consuming, is for a lifelong task. It's not for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, as Mario gave us. But now we have to leave, I think. It is 5 minutes past 6.
Yeah. I guess we need. It was also in one of the slides that one of the hard things is that you always need time to do action research as well. And I guess the same goes for us in this particular meeting. So, but we will definitely continue this conversation after this workshop because we all have a lot to think about. So I would like to thank everybody for joining us today, and all and especially Elia, Maria, and Eleni for organizing this and sharing all your experience with us today. It was very it was very nice.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, and all of you.
Yes, and we also wanted to say that we leave in this discussion point an open question to continue discussion. So it will be for us an absolutely pleasure if you bring us some thoughts about this to continue discussion online.
Yes, yes. Reflection on on this session. Yes.
If you want, you have time. Always happy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.